Could you do me a massive favour and click follow or subscribe button? It helps the podcast out so much.
Because I was going through real denial and a really difficult time kind of coping with the fact that my son has a severe nut allergy, which I never expected it. And then the situation got worse because as another waitress could see that I was having a heated discussion with the waiter, she came over to tell me and my husband it was okay because we don't have allergies, so it doesn't matter if my food has nuts. We also recognise there are a lot of people blogging about food, but we felt there was no single place to share experiences, so that there was one resource where everybody could check out places based on the allergy friendliness.
Hello, welcome back to the Making Sane podcast. So first time doing it in a podcast studio. So how are you, Liljia?
I'm very, very good, thank you.
How was your journey in? Was it okay?
It was fine, yes. It wasn't too busy, and unfortunately it was raining when I got to London, but
and
British weather.
So we met at the Hoxton Hotel, and we realised it's completely nut free as well.
It was amazing.
Yeah, so we went up to the staff and was like, everything like nut free, and she was like, everything's like nut free on the dish. And you even checked like there's definitely no cross contamination as well.
Yes.
So that's amazing. So you're the founder of Allergy Companions. Would you like to do like a bit of an introduction yourself to anyone who maybe have not heard of it before?
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, I'm Liljia, and I'm the founder of allergycompanions.com. Allergy Companions is effectively what you would call the TripAdvisor of the allergy world. So the idea came about last year when I went on holiday to Norfolk with my family, and it was the first time eating out really, the four of us, since our boy got diagnosed with a nut allergy. And we went to this restaurant, did a lot of research, told them about the nut allergy.
Did you like ring up beforehand and like make sure like there was definitely like aware of like how serious your son's allergy was?
Yep, absolutely. I did all of that. It was on the booking. I called them on the day again to make sure that everything was going to be okay and they were comfortable catering for us. And then things went badly wrong.
Yeah. So that was kind of like the birth kind of out of frustration. Like, so in regards to your son's allergy, how old was he when you found out?
So he was 13 months old.
And was there like particular signs at the time as a mother? Because I know I've interviewed a few different kind of mothers with kids with allergies, and there's always like that telltale sign when you think like, oh, something's not quite right. Do you remember that first sign for you?
Yeah, so I think the very first time that I realised there was something wrong is I gave him some food that had nuts, and then all of a sudden everything came out and he vomited. And I remember panicking. I thought, oh my God, what's happened? And I called James, my husband, and said, you have to come home now.
Yeah. There's
something not right. But at that point it didn't really click. It was more like, he's sick. And, I just wanted James to be next to me because I didn't know what to see. And then we sort of started realising over a period of a few weeks that there was something not right with him. I didn't give him any more nuts, but I noticed that he was vomiting quite a lot and doing it quite frequently. And he'd never been a sick baby. He always been really healthy.
Yeah.
And we thought originally it was, maybe there's a bug at nursery, it started
going around, yeah.
Exactly, but then this vomit wouldn't go away. And, I would go into Birmingham for work and my husband called me and said, Francesca's vomited again. I gave him yogurt and like some flakes and, he's been sick again. And then I remember one morning, it was a Saturday, and he woke up and he was all red in the face. Yeah. And at that point, something clicked. And James seen something on Facebook that mentioned that vomit could be a sign of a food allergy.
Okay.
So I remember messaging. So we have a paediatrician that we've seen a couple of times over in Italy, and also one of my brothers is a doctor. So I sort of messaged them both and asked questions, and the instinct was, the answer was, yeah, maybe get him checked out. So on the Monday morning, I remember calling my GP and say, can you write me a referral letter to see an allergist? I have private medical insurance from work. I want to see someone, and that Saturday we went and saw.
It's amazing you got seen to straight away, because I know like with like some families, like sometimes they could be waiting ages to try and get these appointments, and then you just want to kind of get to the bottom of it. So with like Francesco, like kind of going to like school or nursery, shall I say, how were they when you kind of mentioned your allergy when you went to nursery? Were they like super understanding?
They were fantastic. The first thing they asked us is to see the allergy plan that our
That's
doctor
amazing.
has put together. And they went through everything that you could have, not have. They understood completely about the may contain. They told us that all their staff are trained to use EpiPens and they know what to do.
That's amazing. And you mentioned earlier that you didn't really eat out much with Francesco, like kind of growing up with these kind of allergies in terms of like eating out in restaurants. Was that because you was just the anxiousness of like, are they going to take my son's allergies seriously?
I think when we first got the diagnosis, he was still a baby. He was only 30 months old. So we felt initially we didn't need to put him under that risk of eating out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, at that age. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we were obviously worried as well. Even if we were just the ones eating out, we would ask a million questions to make sure that everything on our plate was complete and nut-free. Yeah. But we didn't feel the need initially to
definitely when he's still a baby as well. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, like you're not going to be eating out all the time at like restaurants. So, I mean, what age was he when you did actually start kind of eating out at restaurants and then having to kind of start that dialogue with the member of staff to make sure that they do take it seriously?
So before last year, it was only when we went on holiday abroad. So we stayed in a really nice hotel, really nice in terms of the way they cater for allergy in the south of Italy. And they were fantastic. I spoke to
And you're Italian as well?
I am.
I was going to say, it must feel like ease, like that being kind of your native language, that you can kind of speak to them in Italian. Because sometimes like you've got to use allergy cards and
exactly.
Sometimes it's quite hard with that kind of communication that if they do understand like how serious it is, so it must feel at ease that like you can speak their language.
It was
being
fantastic.
Italian,
yeah, absolutely. I do feel very, very lucky that we were able to. So yes, in terms of eating out, we went to this place in the south of Italy and they were fantastic. They would even make bread, cakes, especially for us.
That's amazing.
The waiter and the manager, there were two restaurants. The one opposite the hotel told me that they had a massive sign in the kitchen to say such and such room has a severe nut allergy and all the food had to be prepared a certain way. So that was really the only experience we had eating out with our son, and then the pandemic started. So I suppose our experience was quite limited until then.
And like I think with the kind of the lockdown and everything, like no one was like eating out. Obviously they couldn't, but no one's eating out at all. But then when it started kind of like the restaurant started to reopen, then it's that whole kind of like anxiousness like kicks in. Like, and then I was gonna say in regards to like parties, and I think with obviously like you say, you've got a kid with an allergy, you don't want him to feel like he's like left alone or he's not defined by his allergies. How have you kind of cope with that when kids parties and then obviously speaking to parents and make them aware? Like how's that experience been for you?
So we have a really nice group of friends, and all of the friends we're close to, they're amazing. That whether we get together to go to a restaurant or someone's house, they're all very, very careful. So when it's one of their parties, we know that we can trust them 100%. They'll check everything. They'll go out of the way to make sure that all the party food and even the birthday cake is all the same for everybody. I think where I find it perhaps a little bit more difficult is when they're parents I don't know. But I sort of found the courage, especially because of my website. I kind of always feel that if I'm not the one giving the example and speaking up for myself and my family, then nobody will. So sometimes it's quite hard. You receive an invite from somebody you don't know, you barely know who the kid is, and you don't know the parent. And sometimes I sit on this invite thinking, I need to really find the courage to pick up the phone and explain the situation. And actually, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, parents have been amazing. They, as soon as I explained my son has severe nut allergy, can't have nuts, but also he can't have any may contain product, as soon as you explain the whole situation, I think because they are parents, they understand it. So although I always feel a little bit nervous talking to someone I don't know, I think actually taking the time to educate and explain has made a huge difference. And we've been to parties where Francesca can just tuck into the cake and all the food like everybody else, which is really, really nice.
It must make you feel a lot less kind of anxious at ease that when parents do kind of understand it.
Completely.
Because I think when I was growing up, like I was the only kid with allergies in the school. Is Francesco, was he the only kid in his class with allergies, do you know?
So I think there is another child that has a red plate, the same as him, and then there are a few in the other class, and actually a few members of staff, believe it or not, have allergies.
Amazing.
And actually when we were looking to launch the website last summer, we didn't know many people with allergies, so we started literally WhatsApping anybody we knew or talking to anybody we knew to say, if you got an allergy, you know someone who has an allergy, could we speak to them? And actually a couple of my daughter's staff members had a nut and peanut allergy.
And I remember, so obviously before the podcast was kind of speaking about, obviously it was at the Hotson Hotel and was kind of speaking about allergies, and you said that you joined a few kind of allergy groups. How was that experience for you?
So when I first joined the allergy groups was over 3 years ago, when my doctor told us about the anaphylaxis campaign and Allergy UK and said, have a look on Facebook for support groups. And I remember joining the Allergy UK support group, and I felt really overwhelmed at the time because I suppose I was going through a real denial and a really difficult time kind of coping with the fact that my son has a severe nut allergy, which I never expected it. And I remember asking questions like, what can I use as a moisturiser that are safe? And this lady just answered, oh, you don't need anything on children, just use water. And I felt really like that's not what I wanted to know. And I remember at the time, maybe I wasn't in the right headspace. And I felt really, I don't know if this is what I want or this is what I expected. And perhaps I wasn't in a place where I wanted any advice. I just wanted to protect my baby and just live in my own.
And you probably feel that, because I've been on a few of these groups, and sometimes they don't always kind of, I mean, I'm a bit like 29 now, but like they don't always like resonate with me. And like I can imagine like, like some of the answers, it just fuels that anxiety rather than like making you feel at ease that your kid's got allergies. It just like increases it. And I think it's great to see more kind of like positive role models in the community saying they've got allergies, but it doesn't define them, or it doesn't kind of like stop them like living their life. Like, I really wanted to talk about the experience at the restaurant, which was kind of the birth of Allergy Companions. And kind of, you mentioned it on the website, but you didn't really go into detail. So I thought it'd be great to kind of get you on the podcast to kind of talk about that experience in the restaurant, which kind of triggered the idea behind Allergy Companions.
Yeah, absolutely. So this time last year was when the government allowed us to go on holiday in rented accommodation. You could eat outside, but not inside a restaurant. And we felt that, Francesca was 3.5 by then. We felt it was the right time perhaps to start experiencing eating out as a family. So being the person I am, I did a lot of research. I looked up every single place that was recommended on the Michelin Guide, TripAdvisor and whatnot to see where I could go. And I found a couple of really lovely pubs, restaurants that were amazing. I mean, they cooked things that were off the menu. They made sure that everything was completely away from any nuts, no cross-contamination. So we felt, eating out with allergies is not too bad. And perhaps we could do this as a family. And then I found another place that at the time was recommended on the Michelin Guide, no longer there, not sure why, but and again, I felt I did everything I needed to do. I did a lot of research. I looked through their menu, looked fine, the messaging around allergy, speak to a member of staff and all of that was there. And I also spoke to them before going. I even called them on the actual day of our meal. So you've literally done
everything. It feels like a checklist. Like you've rang them, you checked the website, and like you went to this restaurant thinking they're fully aware about how serious their son's allergy is.
Yes, I'm very militant when it comes to eating out.
I mean, you have to be, definitely with allergies,
And on the day, so I called them and they said, the chef is very much aware, this is what your son can have, and we'll make sure that all your food is also nut-free. So then we turned up on the day at the restaurant, make sure that, again, they knew who we were, that our son carries EpiPens, that we wanted all of our food, not just our son's food, to be completely nut-free. So came to ordering the food, and I ordered a chicken dish, no mention of nuts on the menu, but I did mention to the waiter that I want to make sure that, again, all our food was nut-free. So then the food came, and my chicken dish was presented to me, and it looked very strange to me. It looked like it was covered in nuts. So at that point, I called the waiter over and said, "What's this on my plate? Is it nuts? Because it looks like nuts to me."
Yeah.
And his first reaction was, "I don't think so." And I said, "What do you mean you don't think so? It either is or it isn't." And I, considering that my son's EpiPens are right there on the chair, I want you to take this plate away immediately. Yeah. And so he did. Disappeared for 20 minutes and then came back to confirm that the chef wanted to let me know it is nuts on my plate. And
after 20 minutes as well, like, what took them so long? Like, you should know what you're serving your customers. Like.
Exactly. I suspect they were probably having a bit of a debate in the kitchen as to what happened. And as he came in, my son was already eating at that point because his dish was fine. He was hungry. And I could just see my husband was like, he couldn't eat anything. And we were just so upset and angry inside, but we were trying to smile as much as possible in front of our children.
Yeah, I can imagine it's like difficult as well because you don't want to get upset in front of your child, but then like inside, like you want to scream and shout kind of thing. Like,
exactly. And then the situation got worse because as another waitress could see that I was having a heated discussion with the waiter, she came over to tell me and my husband it was okay because we don't have allergies, so it doesn't matter if my food has nuts in it. And I just thought, this is just even worse. You just making this situation,
just not taking it seriously.
No.
And I've had that before where like the waitress is like, it's only traces, so it's just like, it's really annoying that number one, they just obviously they don't take it serious, but also like sounds like they didn't want to take any accountability to what they've just done.
Not at all. And at the end of the meal, the manager even tried to give us 20% off our bill, which felt,
insulting.
So insulting, absolutely. And we did have a very, very long discussion. I hope they've learned their lesson. And in many ways, I'm glad that nothing happened. And, I said to them, take this as an opportunity to learn because this could have ended up very, very badly. But anyway, talking about something a bit more positive. So, that was very much the catalyst for Allergy Companions. Yeah. So, though that situation was horrible and I really hope that nobody has to go through it, that evening when the children went to bed, James and I looked each other in the eyes and thought, that was pretty horrific and we never want to go through it again. Equally, we started sort of debating, thinking, well, how many people must have
gone through this experience?
Exactly. And also, how many people must find it hard to eat out and find places.
Because I think at the minute, with like eating out with an allergy, like the only time you kind of hear about like good experience with restaurants is like maybe like an Instagram post or maybe an Instagram video, and if you've not liked it or you saved it, then
or if you're not on Instagram,
it's like really hard then to like find out, I remember someone speaking about this, but which restaurant was that? So I'd like to share Make and Take podcast is sponsored by Food Llama. So if you do your grocery shopping online, it's like a Google Chrome extension. So when you go on the Asda.com, like you download the extension, it has a tick or cross against all the products, so it's very easy to distinguish whether you can have it or not. So it's great to have Food Llama sponsoring the podcast. It's only a beta version at the minute, so it only works on Asda, but hopefully it'll work on other supermarkets very soon. But make sure to check out. I'll leave a link in the podcast description. So was that kind of like then the birth of Allergy Companions?
Exactly, and precisely. We first of all thought, maybe we could become bloggers, and then we thought, nah, we have two small children. Exactly, we thought we have two small children, jobs. There's absolutely no way we have time to eat out every single day of the week. And we also recognise there are a lot of people blogging about food, but we felt there was no single place to share experiences. So that, there was one resource where everybody could check out places based on the allergy friendliness. So we sort of came up with this concept of a TripAdvisor for people with allergies and celiac disease, so that, if I go to a place and they are let's say good. Let's talk about good stuff. And I tell you a place, then you tell me a place, then your friend tells you a place, and someone else tells a place, and all the million people that are affected tell each other places that they should go to or maybe avoid.
It's like a community.
Exactly. Then it becomes a really useful platform where we can all share experiences, good or bad, of food venues. So it could be a restaurant, it could be a cafe, it could be a bakery, a hotel. It doesn't matter. Even I get reviews for children's trampoline places. It literally can be anything. But it's so valuable because then the thing with TripAdvisor, it's open to the whole world, to the whole community.
And it's really hard to kind of then filter through allergies. I mean, you can search allergies, but then it's not like a platform which is catered towards people with allergies. It's really hard to kind of find that information. So I think when I did go on your website, for me, it felt like the TripAdvisor for allergies, where it's very easy in terms of like the interface and like your location to kind of then filter through like the allergies and like what you're allergic to, then hopefully find an allergy-free restaurant which you know is going to be your safe eating at.
Exactly. And I think what's really important, because it's from people like me and you who are affected directly or indirectly, you can kind of trust them, because you know that those people look for a certain type of reassurance. They look for the waiter to provide positive messages and to check with the kitchen and to check that the chef is being informed and all of those things. And actually I've had a lot of feedback from some of our users saying that, a year ago they felt really anxious eating out, and finding recommendations on the website is actually giving them the courage to eat out.
It makes you feel less anxious as well. Like definitely when like eating out with an allergy, if you know like someone's eaten there before or someone's recommended a restaurant and they've got allergies as well, it definitely like reduces my kind of anxiousness. And I imagine it's the same for you, like obviously because your daughter's got an allergy as well.
She does, yes. She's allergic to fish. But she wasn't part of the story behind the website. She was diagnosed a few weeks later.
That's
a few weeks after we launched.
That's crazy, that, isn't it? Like your son's got an allergy, you have this really bad experience, you set up this website to help people eating out allergies and finding a restaurant they know they're safe with. And then a few weeks after that, your daughter got diagnosed with a fish allergy, I mean, how was that? I felt like
I was meant to do this.
It was like fate in that sense, like.
Yes. Absolutely.
So like, are they your daughter and son, are they very different personalities? Like I know we spoke at Hoxton Hotel where you're saying like, is it your daughter doesn't really eat like chocolate, or she's not really into cakes? Like,
no, it feels really strange because my son loves chocolate and cake, which is quite, especially cake's really hard to get outside the house. Whereas my daughter is just not interested in anything sweet, anything naughty, and anything treat-like. She's just not interested.
But it's amazing now. But I was going to say, back to kind of like the Allergy Companion and kind of setting up, would the goal be to just make it as big and as accessible as you can, hopefully in the future, so everyone can kind of eat out safe with an allergy?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, the platform is completely free to use and always will be. I never ever want anyone to have to pay to use it, because it doesn't make sense. It's got a social purpose and it's there to help people.
You want to make a difference,
Exactly. But my dream is really to be able to look on the map and say, right, we're going here this weekend, or we're going on a family holiday, and be able to go to any location across the UK and Ireland and be able to have loads of options of good places. And also knowing that they come from different people with different dietary requirements.
Because it's not just allergies, is it? Is it like gluten as well? If you've got like a gluten allergy, that you can kind of filter through like
everything. Yes. So what we did through the website, because we wanted to make sure that it was representative of the allergy and celiac community, or people with intolerances, so that we wouldn't exclude anybody. Because in reality, we are affected by nuts and fish, but people have all sorts of allergy profile. Or, I have friends who are celiac and then their son has an egg allergy, or, they're in their group of friends, they have different allergies. So it's really, we want it to be as inclusive as possible, really.
What's been the biggest challenge with the website, or what's been the biggest challenge so far, like trying to create this platform? Like, is there anything which kind of comes to mind?
I suppose when we first launched, you're really excited. You're like, oh, I want to go out there. I want everybody to know it.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to a web agency about launching a website. And the way he sort of described it, which always stuck in my mind, is imagine having a shop in the middle of the desert and you have to create roads so that people can get to your shop and come and spend money with you or come and buy your product. Imagine your website a bit like that shop in the desert, and you have to
find ways to like draw.
Exactly. So I suppose the biggest challenge is to make sure that everybody knows about it and we can help as many people as possible.
Even like social media is like a shop, and like, if you know what I mean, and that is like when you see someone's feed, like you're kind of scrolling through someone's shop, and if you don't like the content or you don't like the feed, then you're like, oh, I'm not gonna go to this shop again, kind of thing.
Exactly.
And I imagine it's the same with like Allergy Companions. Like you want to kind of create content which people kind of engage with, and I think social media is so important now to kind of get the message out there, because you got your website and then have you got your social media, and they both got to like coincide with each other in that way to kind of like make people aware. Like, has the community been like super welcoming when you kind of did launch the website?
Absolutely. Yes, we had so many messages from, we put our messages out on LinkedIn, and obviously social media, and I remember going on a few Facebook groups to say to people, look, I've launched, go and check it out. And I've just been overwhelmed by really a lot of lovely messages, a lot of messages from parents, some parents that didn't even have the courage to reach out at that point. And so luckily, so far, we've only ever received very positive feedback. And I think people see the good intention. They can see I'm a normal person. I'm a mum with 2 children trying to do something really positive. Yeah, because I've read your
post, but then like it's the first time like getting the opportunity to like speak to you in person, and if no one's actually like, because it's very hard to get to know like someone's personality when it's just like a post and a caption. Like you can really kind of get to know someone when you have an hour with someone where you can kind of sit down and actually kind of find out kind of the whole journey of like how you got to where you are, kind of thing.
Exactly. And I just want people to know that I'm a mum, I'm a a normal
human being.
Trying to make
a difference.
Exactly. I it sounds very cheesy, but my story is very much what you see on social media, is what you see on the website. If you meet me, those messages are very much the same. I'm honest, I'm genuine, and what I'm trying to do is genuinely bring positive change to this space.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, I know that like each year you kind of talk about like International Women's Day, and like obviously being a woman entrepreneur, and like I remember you kind of shared other kind of Instagram accounts which really kind of inspired you. Like I know you kind of came from like a finance background. How was that in like a very kind of male dominated industry?
You have to, dress professionally, you have to act a certain way, you have to almost prove yourself more than you should, really.
And it's great to kind of see you apart from Allergy as well, but also having a voice for that and something you stand for. Because I think like for me, like when you stand for something, like people can kind of rally behind you and kind of support that. I was going to say, is there any like any kind of other kind of women in business you kind of look up to or aspire to be?
Oh gosh, that's a very difficult question. I suppose one of the people I really like talking to, and I really admire the way she is Liljia Polo from Creative Nature. Juliana's been speaking to me. Well, I had a very brief chat before I launched. I didn't tell her what it was. And then we speak fairly regularly. And one of the things I really like about Juliana is that she's obviously been very successful, and she's done really well with her business, but she's so humble, and she's
very humble, and I've had her on the podcast. It was during lockdown, so I'd love to get her on, like, when you speak to someone in person. But yeah, the success of Creative Nature and how that's gone from like one product to now a massive range, and the success, and it's great.
Exactly, and you can see Juliana's profile is very visible in the public space, but she doesn't care if someone has 20 followers or is only looking to start out, or they're simply, a normal...
She goes out of her way to like make sure that,
She's very inclusive, and she doesn't look at people for who they are. Yeah,
that's amazing. No, that's great to hear as well. I was going to say, in regards to kind of like your son and daughter obviously both got allergies, in terms of like growing up where they kind of take on that responsibility for themselves, is that something as a parent which a little bit like anxiousness or like worried, but do you think like hopefully they'll be confident enough? Because I know like with Francesco, he did the allergy awareness day, and he went into the nursery, and was he like speaking to all the little kids about allergies?
Absolutely. So yeah, it was very sweet. So we'd been planning to do something for Allergy Awareness Week. I spoke to his nursery, and actually his group of nursery were very receptive about Allergy Awareness Week. So we decided to create these posters. So over the weekend, we drew all the letters. He coloured them all himself.
It's amazing. You showed me the picture just before the podcast as well, and I was like, it's amazing, because I must have missed it on Instagram, and it's so cute. So he actually did it all himself.
Yeah, so he coloured it all himself, and then cut all the letters, stuck them with glue, and then we took a picture on the way to nursery, and then when we got there, he literally ran in front of his group of friends who were already sort of sat in circle, and he stood in front of all of them. So and I nearly cried. I didn't, because I didn't want him to see it, but I just felt so proud, because I know that a lot of things can go wrong with allergies, and I know that there is a lot of anxiety around it. And my husband and I are very conscious of it, and we talk about it a lot of the time, but we try to talk about it away from him. Because the way my daughter Cleo is too small. She's only 2 and 3 months, and she's only just started speaking. But Francesco's very aware of his allergy. He understands it so well. At
such a young age as well. That's amazing that he's like aware about like how serious it is. And I remember you saying before that obviously he was like telling all the kids like if he has an allergic reaction and what happens. So I think that's great at such a young age. And I think that will like really help him when he does get older, when he gets to that point where maybe he goes away to college or university, that he has that confidence to like speak up about it and tell like strangers or tell his friends about how serious it is. Like. Exactly.
And then, you know, when we did Allergy Awareness Week, he came out on nursery one day and he said, I want to tell everybody on the street about my poster and the fact I have an allergy. And I thought that's so really good. So I really hope as he and his sister grow up that they feel like, you know, the same way someone has, I don't know, brown hair, red hair, or darker skin, lighter skin, you know, it's just part of you, part of who you are. And you know, I want him to be able to, and like his sister, to be able to just be open to people and to friends the same way we are right now for him. Because, you know, I think the more we make it sound like a diversity point, the more we feel different.
Yeah, because I think it like your allergy isn't like, I'm not defined by it, is like part of you. But if you understand that, then you kind of go forward in life being like, well, it's part of me, but then I'm not defined by it. It's not going to kind of let it get in the way of life. And I think you did a post where you kind of said that like he kind of wished that he never had an allergy, and that must be really heartbreaking as a parent, maybe like hearing that.
He sometimes does come home and say that, and then I speak to his teacher and he said, oh, you know, the allergy topic came up, and he just said, oh, I wish I didn't have an allergy. And sometimes when he says that, it's really heartbreaking, because you think, oh, you obviously so aware of it, but then equally, you know, James, my husband, will say, oh, but you know, Cleo has a fish allergy, and then Cleo's teacher has a nut and tree allergy, and so has an allergy, and I can have certain medicines. And we try to make it turn into a positive discussion. But
it's not different as well, because I think like I feel like over the last couple of years, like it's definitely become more common now with kids, or like even like adults can get allergies later on in life, but it feels like it's a bit more of a common subject now, and that you're not the only one. So it must be good that it's probably quite nice, not nice, but like the fact like his sister's got an allergy as well, that he doesn't feel like left out. Because I think like me growing up, my sister doesn't have an allergy, so she could eat whatever she wants, and I was like, oh, I want that as well. So it's probably like in one way like they've got each other.
Exactly, and it's so nice as well when we go to a restaurant now. He'll be the waiter. I have a nut allergy, and my little baby sister has a fish allergy, and he'll tell everybody. And I think actually, I love that. I really like that, and I hope.
I love how confident he is at that age as well, because I think there's certain points where like a parent could like protect the kid too much, but by doing that, the consequences is that when the kid kind of goes to university, that he feels like super anxious about eating out or even like telling people. And there's a bit of a confidence thing there. And I think that's what I'm trying to like build up. But I think it's amazing to see like your son like just being so confident to be like, I've got this allergy and this is what it is, and like speaking about it already at a young age is, I think honestly it's going to help him like going forward. Yeah,
that's the hope. And you know, he's starting school in September, and we want to make sure that his school and his friends, I think the openness element is really, really important. I think if you don't tell people and you don't make it part of the conversation, that's where you can, you know, that's when it becomes more difficult to be open about it. And you know, one of our biggest worries is always, Jason always says to me, oh, I hope he doesn't get bullied, and I hope, you know, he doesn't knock his confidence down. And obviously I really hope it doesn't happen, and if it did, then we'll have to deal with it in some way.
It's so interesting, because as a kid, like I never got bullied because of my allergy, but you do hear like the odd story. And I remember I had Sarah on the podcast, and she kind of spoke about it, and she just said there was one occasion where kids said something to a little boy like, oh, you can't have this kind of thing, and he got quite upset. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't like that, hopefully doesn't come into it and stuff. But I think, yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I never really experienced it, not with allergies anyway. I think we all go through some experience in life where someone's a bit nasty, and kids don't understand as well, being that age as well, like they probably don't understand like when they say, oh well, you can't have this, and the consequences that could have. And
exactly, but you know, we'll come to it as it comes. But another thing about the website is that, you know, our dream again is that, you know, when he's old enough, when he becomes a teenager and his friends say, oh, shall we go to a restaurant, shall we go out for a meal, and he can actually refer to our website as a resource going out. And then also I hope that other children in his class or his school know about it, and you know it's there as a way to like really resource, because one of our really big messages is all about inclusion and making everybody feel welcome at the table. You know, I hear a lot of stories where someone doesn't get invited out because they have an allergy, or you know, parents that tell me, oh, I think my child wasn't invited to birthday parties because of an allergy. And then, you know, our biggest dream is that more and more people feel included and not excluded, or they don't have to go.
It's like educated as well, because I think like people just like don't understand, and they just don't want to. Oh, I don't want to take that risk, so let's not invite them. And obviously, it's not nice, and when it's just a little kid and they don't understand. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So and that's part of the reason why we're so really keen for the website to be a success, because we want our child or any other child growing up knowing that there are options, that, you know, they can go out for a meal and be welcomed at a restaurant and go out with other people, not feeling like the odd one out. And that's such an important...
Because I think we spoke about earlier, because I remember there's been times when my friends like booked an Indian, but say if it was like one of their family events, so I can't like change the whole restaurant if his family's butts that Indian, but it's been times where, oh, like, do you want to come along? And I'm like, no, I can't, like, with me allergy. And I remember you saying like on your website, there's Indians out there which are not free, and someone reached out recently and told me about an Indian restaurant in Dalston which is like completely nut free, and I actually emailed them and I was like, yeah, there's no nuts in the ingredients. I feel super anxious already because I've not eaten Indian since I was 13, so like just the thought of like eating Indian food in an Indian restaurant just gives me anxiety, because I'm always like, well, they said it's completely nut free. So it's great that with your website there's resources out there where there's alternative options, like where there might be a restaurant out there which is completely nut free, for example, if it was an Indian.
Exactly. And what I'm finding as well for the restaurant, you can tell that unfortunately the last few years have been marked by a few really tragic deaths, and I think it's served as almost a wake-up call for some restaurants that instead of just turning their customers away and say, oh, we don't want to risk it, actually they have the risk in their business by removing certain allergens. So I very often come across restaurants that are now free, or they don't use sesame, they don't use gluten, they don't use quite a lot of things. And actually it's great to see that, because I think rather than, you know, if it worries you so much to serve someone with a nut allergy or sesame allergy or whatever else allergy, maybe get rid of the allergen, because perhaps that is the way forward. And, you know, I've spoken to a chef of a nut-free restaurant, and they removed nuts because they were too worried. But the chef actually told me that it allows them to be so much more creative with their cuisine.
Yeah, and like the creativity. Have you seen the film on Netflix called Boiling Point?
No, but it's on my
So
list.
one of the customers in the film has an allergy, and she speaks to the waitress, and the waitress then passes over the note, and then there's a bit of an argument like, why is this not in the system? And then they tell the chef. And I thought this is going to be quite interesting to see how this rolls out in the film. But the film is all shot in one shot. So it's amazing. Like, you really feel like the anxiousness and stress of the restaurant and everything. And the woman in it, like, she has allergic reactions to the food, and she gets taken out of the establishment. And the thing what concerned me is, like, she didn't use the EpiPen. So that's the first thing which, like, come to mind. And the second thing is, like, they even asked her, like, have you got an EpiPen? And the boyfriend said, yeah, she's got an EpiPen. But then they don't use it until the ambulance come and the crew arrive and they use the EpiPen. But when they did use the EpiPen, I'll have to rewatch this again, but it looks like when they stabbed it into the leg, it looks like they pressed it with a thumb, which is obviously not how you use an EpiPen, it's all done on pressure. So that was like, I was like, it's great that they're raising awareness about allergies, but
Are they doing it in the right way?
But then it wasn't quite right. I felt like if she did have the EpiPen, she should have done that in the restaurant, so people were aware that she had it on with her. And then, like you said, when the ambulance did come and inject it, it looks like they clipped it with a thumb. And I was like, I was so annoyed. I have to rewatch this again, but like, it's annoying. It's great that people are using allergies in storylines in some way. But I also just want to make sure that they do it correctly, because if I have an allergic reaction, I don't want someone to click it and stab the needle into the thumb.
No,
and
of course.
then I could be like, without an EpiPen. I've always got two anyway, but like, still, like, it's scary, like, yeah.
No, of course. I suppose that's the problem with films. They don't always represent reality in the most.
Yeah, but this film was like so realistic. Like, it was like the struggles of like a restaurant, and it's just, I just wish they got it bang on. Like,
of course.
And it's a shame, because I think it was like, it did really well on Netflix, and it's a really good film. But I just think when films or documentaries or anything TV like show allergies, like, they actually just make sure that like everything is on to the
absolutely.
T. Otherwise, like, I don't want someone stabbing the thumb. But it's great to see that they actually showing it how to stab it in the leg, because I think with the EpiPen, everybody thinks like you stab it somewhere else. Like.
No, absolutely. And at least it's a talking point for the non-allergy community as well.
Yeah.
So kind of raising that awareness that, you know, I think sometimes when you raise the topic of allergies, people think, oh, it's just a bit of an itch on the arm,
it's
or,
just like,
you know, or, you know, I'm sure you've had a little
unless they don't know anyone with allergies, sometimes they just don't take it seriously. And I feel like the best experience for me in restaurants is if they've got a family or a friend with an allergy. Like,
completely.
That has been for me like the best experiences. Like.
No, completely. I would agree. It's either someone in the kitchen has a severe allergy, or they have one, or their sister, or, you know, someone in the family. That completely.
What's the best experience you've had so far in a restaurant? Is there one restaurant so far where you always go back to, or you've had a really good experience there?
So we've had different experiences that are really, really positive. I mean, we went on holiday to Cornwall last year, and the chef will meet me every morning, discuss our meals for the day, and literally tell me what you want to eat, and I'll do it. And that was amazing. It was done in Cornwall at the Polynesian Hotel. And but then again, we went to a place near Bath, Bradford-on-Avon, and the restaurant was completely nut-free, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
We actually found a review on the website and decided to give it a go. It mentioned that it was nut-free and the food was really good.
I know, you got to give me some like suggestions later, so I have to make sure to check them out. Like, was it a nut-free bakery you gave me?
Oh yeah, it's a cafe.
Yeah.
Just
What's
outside
that called
of
again?
London. Mitos Coffee Shop.
Mitos Coffee Shop. I mean, I've never gone to a coffee shop and had a cake, and the fact like you said it's like completely nut-free is like, yeah, I'm super excited about that one.
Absolutely. We do get recommendations on the website. I always get so excited. I mean, especially with bakeries and coffee shops, I get particularly excited because I know that that's such a weak category, and I haven't been for a coffee and cake with my son yet. Yeah. We still, we found recommendations on the website, but they are a bit of a drive from us. But, it's really nice. It gives you hope that there are places out there
where you can do it. Yeah.
And I think that's where it's so important to go on a website and leave a review and share experiences. because that's the only way for the website to grow, is to, you know, all tell each other our secrets, not just keep them
and grows a community as well. I was going to say, we're getting to the end of the podcast, but I just really want to ask, like, what advice would you give to other parents out there with kids with allergies? Is there one piece of advice which kind of comes to mind which hopefully will help them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are different pieces of advice. You know, it depends. If you haven't received a diagnosis, make sure that you try to see someone as soon as possible. That you get professional advice before you try to look for advice from other people who are not professionals. And the advice as well is to be very open to other parents, to other people, to other friends. Don't hide your child's allergy, but also don't over exaggerate just to be kind of heard. You know, just be really open about it. You know, we've shown friends how to use an EpiPen if they were looking after our son for a couple of hours, and just make it part of the conversation, and so that, you know, they are aware, and your child then grows up in a world where people understand their allergies and they are made to feel welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, if anyone wants to follow kind of Allergy Companions or check out the website, do you remember all off by heart? Like, I always feel like I put people on the spot. I'm like, do you remember? Like, so is it allergycompanions.com or .co.uk?
Yes, so it's allergycompanions.com, the website. And then you can follow us on social media under Allergy Companions. So it's nice and easy.
That's amazing. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And yeah, it's great to kind of hear about the story of our Allergy Companions and how it kind of started. And it's great to hopefully see it over the next few years grow and obviously be the go-to platform for when you are eating out with an allergy. Check it out. So yeah, thank you.